Verse 17. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camel. So, yeah, sure, they had to go back to the town, they had to prepare everything, get the flocks ready, right? So he got his camels as well now involved, at least, yeah, sure, he is wealthy now because he owns camels. Verse 18. He drove away all his livestock, all his property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession. He had acquired in Padan Aram to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. So everything he legally obtained, he took. Okay, now, yes, some of it seemingly because of dreams he got from God informing, and then unscientifically, the stripe, the spotted stuff, and the branches, sure, that would not have led to these kinds of results, okay? But it shows that science is not everything, and ultimately there's a God who controls everything. So, against the science of the day, basically, except for that the weak and the strong part, right, with the striped and the spotted part, God showed that he can overrule science. It's not that he's overruling science. I see that there's two laws at play. The law of, it's like two things with God. God doesn't change, and at the same time God is gracious. So there are the law of, like, things, the water flows downstream, right? This stone, if I let it drop, will drop at a certain speed down, right? That's not going to change. It's not going to be different tomorrow. So that is kind of, I say, science. But then sometimes, okay, God knows that he doesn't want the stone to be broken, so in some other way, some huge, strong updraft will come or something else, and the thing will be lifted up and thrown back into my arms or something like that. That is then the second law of God, God's grace, that is at work. In other words, that law trumps science law. So therefore, when God intervenes with miracles, I don't see that as miraculous in a sense. I just see there's two laws, which in the one is higher than the other one. And so in some cases, as God intends, the one that's higher gets preference. It's like lying. You're not supposed to lie, right? But if you are hiding people that's looked for by the government, and you tell those people that those people are here, then they're going to be killed, like say the Jews in the Holocaust kind of idea in Holland, right? The Corinthian woman and family. Then lying is right, because more important is saving of lives. So therefore, for me, miracles is not a contradiction. Atheists and others see miracles as a contradiction. It goes against natural laws. It doesn't go against natural laws. It's two laws. But the one is more important. In all or in most cases, the other law is not intervening on the law with the law of nature. But in some cases, like the case with lying, when you are hiding people, that law trumps the other law. And then this miracle happens. So it's not, in that sense, in kind of really this huge miracle per se, or a contravening of laws. It's just that the important law sometimes gets priority, as God, who created everything, who made both laws determined. Okay. So, everything that he legally obtained, the help of God, miraculously obtained because of the visions, he took. The other thing, connection here as well, is between how Isaac, when he had to flee due to the drought into the land of Philistines, he got rich there, God blessed him. Abram, when he went to Egypt, or later to Abimelech, he got rich there. The same way, in exile now, Jacob became rich. As well, those stories, with all three of them, they had this in common. In exile, when they were there, not in the land of Canaan, actually outside the land, they attained more than inside the land. Verse 19. Laban had gone to share his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. Okay, so this here is just a mention of when all this was planned. Okay, so in other words, Jacob had this all very well planned. He got them into the fields when he knew if they say no to him, there's still a possible different kind of outcome, or he'll have more time to convince them because the father is far. And at the same time, if they say yes, then it's enough time for him to pack up everything and to leave. Because Laban is not there, it's the busiest time of the year for them, the shearing of the sheep part. So he has enough time. Okay, so that part of information we can get from this verse. And we learn that Rachel stole his household gods. Why did she do this? Was she afraid going to another country where her gods aren't, then there's no protection for her? Or was she afraid that ultimately Laban is going to maybe use these gods against Jacob and against them? And so that he can't use them against them, she took him. Right? Maybe. We don't exactly know what was her motivation. So her motivation could have been very negative, at the same time kind of positive. Right? But in all cases, kind of she believed that these gods had some kind of power. Because if she believed Laban could use them against his family, then she believed these gods had some kind of power. If she wanted to use them herself because they had some kind of power, then she believed they had power. So in all kind of cases, she is kind of wrong, but at least in one case she's a little bit more right, and there's a little bit of right or explanation as well for it. But we don't know. It's not stated in the text. Verse 20. But it's just an important point when Laban is going to start searching for it, that we are going to see that actually we know where they are. Jacob didn't. Verse 20. And Jacob tricked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he intended to flee. So Jacob is kind of still Jacob, but now they don't use the word deceive, he just used the word trick. So with trick there's a little bit more of wisdom involved than just plain deceiving, where there's no real wisdom involved. Okay, I mean, yeah, there can be, but deceiving is just all negative. By tricking is kind of maybe explainable, because, you know, he kind of had no choice in this case. He didn't tell his father-in-law. He waited for a time, his father-in-law is gone, clearly, was not intending to tell him, and then he left. Verse 21. He fled with all that he had, and arose and crossed the Euphrates, and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. So like, cross the Euphrates. Now this is not the Euphrates for sure. Euphrates would be, I don't know, is it wider in that spot or not? But he crossed over. Now this is not too difficult to cross. I can cross over as well from the one side to the other side, not very deep. And there most likely would have been a place where they could cross it, because other people crossed it as well. So he set his face south. He's going to go south to the hill country of Gilead. Verse 22. When it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him for 7 days and followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. Okay, so after 3 days, you can imagine somebody saw, heard, they then set off to go to tell Laban. 3 days later, this person reached Laban, told Laban, so Laban had to come back first. He had to get everything to gather everything, so then to set off after them. So although Jacob was fleeing with a lot of stuff, with a bunch of small kids with him, and a few older ones, but still he couldn't move fast. He was not in a car or on a motorbike driving south, while his father-in-law could have used donkeys or camels or whatever they had, and go faster after them, and it just grown men. So sure, but it took them still 7 days to catch up with them, because they had such an advantage in time. Okay, maybe Jacob hoped for more than that, but he knew some of the time, most likely, depending on Laban, he's going to catch up to him.